Let's go!
The station that keeps it rocking 24/7.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Grizz Biz, my 2 cents.
Here's Jim. Look at it.
Delay. You never know what you get on our show. Anyway, it's Wednesday, then we're back. Can I get another round of applause? Give me another round of applause. Last week, get it cracking like it the right way. Get the energy popping and shaking. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Yes, but as always, we pan to the right. And what do we have there? The diva's not here. Hopefully, let me just say this right here, and I know she's probably listening, but I hope the diva is just running behind, and I hope the diva don't let an opportunity like this slip by. We're just gonna leave it at that. And then we're looking up there on the big screen, and I don't see Miss NikiiBabay. Let's give Miss NikiiBabay a round of applause too. Oh, she's there. Let's give Miss NikiiBabay a round of applause. She is right on time. Oh, suck a ducket now. I feel Wednesday to Wednesday. That's what's up. How you been, man?
I'm fine. How you been?
I've been all right. I was kind of worried about you, talking about you was under the weather. You know, you be flipping the script. You know. We want everybody else around you to be safe.
I got the little cold at the beginning of the year. You know, that little weather change got me real quick, but I'm okay.
You okay?
I'm okay now.
That's what's up. Well, hopefully, our other co-hosts will be here. If not, but today we got I said great show. Every Wednesday to Wednesday is a great show to me. Let's give me a round of applause. You know what I'm talking about? There's no shame in my game. If it wasn't for Unanimous Network, if it wasn't for my co-host, if it wasn't for me just, being able to express ourselves and do what we do. So that's what it is. But today we got a great show for y'all. A guest. Like I said, I don't like to do the flowers. But in actuality, it's all the same thing. You give him props. And I don't give props just to anybody, but I'm giving my props to folks in the city of my city of Cincinnati, for all you those who tuning in elsewhere or catch the show later. These folks have made some type of impact within our city for the black community, and they need to get their props. You know what I'm saying? So today's guest is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy has had his foothold in the soil. When they say in the trenches, the mud, the dirt, I think of these folks in the mud and the dirt. Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Rucker. Now, Mr. Rucker's been a judge, he's been a lawyer, he is a lawyer for the Cochran family law firm, a member of the Alphas, is that right? I don't know the sign. Let me stop that shit. That's lightweight gang shot now. I'm just playing with you. And some more organizations. So, Mr. Rucker, how you doing?
Loving life, brother. It's good to be here. Glad to see you, and glad to see your co-host sitting there on the screen as well.
Yes,
thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Like I said, man, I just wanted to give people their props and give them backstory because, like I said, let's start out, man. Where'd you go to college at, man?
So I'm an HBCU graduate, Hampton University.
All right.
Born and raised in Gary, Indiana. Went down there to school in Virginia.
All right. Give that a round of applause. You know what I'm saying? Hampton. Did you go to school with DJ Envy?
Envy was a little bit behind me, but yeah.
You're a little bit behind you. That's what's up. He always talk about Hampton University, no matter
right.
what. So I that's on the radar. So you from Gary, Indiana, right?
Born and raised.
Boy, what was that like? And when did you make the transition to here?
So I always tell people, whatever I seen as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, it can't compare even a little bit to what I saw growing up. I mean, I grew up in the grimy, the crazy, the dirty. I mean, that was home. Look like I'm freezing.
Are you still good over here?
Okay. So growing up in Gary was nuts. I was 7 years old the first time I saw somebody pull out a gun. I was 7 years old the first time I saw somebody actually shoot off a gun. It was in a different time. I was 14 when I attended my first funerals for one of my boys who got shot in the head trying to break up a fight at school. It was crazy because that's what I saw. And I thought that everybody lived the same way until I went someplace else and saw that that's not necessarily how everybody else lived.
How
you
big
only know
is
your experiences?
How big is
the
Gary?
experiences I had growing up.
How big is Gary, Indiana?
About 100,000. Well, it was about 100,000 when I was coming up.
Wow.
Right outside of Chicago, right on the lake. And what it is, Gary was one of the original chocolate cities. And it also had steel mills. So in the 70s, when the steel mills were popping, in the 60s, 50s, it was bigger than even in Pittsburgh. But once everything started cutting back, the steel mills, started closing down, unemployment moved in, crime, craziness, and it got crazy. So growing up in the 70s and the 80s, it was nothing less than nuts.
Wow. The Jacksons had already been gone since then, huh?
They were a little bit older than me. I never really engaged with the Jacksons, although I hear that every week of my life.
Oh, well, okay. We gotta ask, man. Gary got some.
Ask too.
Go ahead. What was you gonna say, Nikki?
I said I was gonna ask too. He was from Gary, Indiana. I'm like, did you know or see Michael Jackson in them?
Oh, really? That's the first thing to come out of people's mouth. Who else famous from Gary, Indiana? It's just them, right? No, is there some rappers from Gary too?
Well, Robin Harris is from Gary.
Okay.
No really big name rappers were from Gary. But like I said, we were right next to Chicago. So my mother's from Chicago, my cousins and stuff. So I spent a lot of time on the South Shore, hopping over there.
Okay.
On Saturdays, weekends and stuff. But
so when did you move to Cincinnati?
Said, you live your experiences. I didn't know anything different.
When did you move to Cincinnati, and what made you make Cincinnati your home?
So funny story. My high school in Gary was right outside of Gary. It was a Catholic school. I was getting a little bit of trouble, so my parents sent me to Catholic school. My high school guidance counselor, I went to go tell her. I decided I wanted to go to a black college, and so I told my high school guidance counselor that I was going to a black college, and she literally asked me if I was doing that because I didn't like white people anymore.
What'd you say?
Her exact words. She was all flustered. She was like 107. She was like, "Oh, what do you not like white people anymore?" I was like, "Well, if I did before that comment, I don't now." But what she had told me before that was that based on my grades and based on where I come from, that I shouldn't waste my time going to college. Like literally, that's what my guidance counselor told me. The person who was supposed to tell me how high I could rise, how much I could accomplish, how I didn't have a ceiling, was telling me that I shouldn't waste my time going to college because I probably would not be successful.
Now that was what I'm gonna say. What made her say that? I mean, the end of that, because some people say. Go ahead, Nikki. I'm gonna cut you up. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying I'm agreeing with you. I'm asking the same thing. Like, right, what made her say that? Like, where did that come from? I mean, they're supposed to be uplifting you and telling you where you should go and what you can do. And she's telling you that you don't need to waste your time going to school. That's a little strange.
Yeah, because most people say don't go to
where I came from. She looked at Gary and the success rate of the educated and non-educated in the black community that I grew up in. She looked at my grades. I didn't have great grades when I was in high school. So according to the statistics in her book, which I learned later don't mean shit, but what those statistics in the book told her was that based on his demographic, based on his neighborhood, based on his path up to this point, there is a 48% chance likelihood that he would be successful if he decided to pursue higher education. So based on what she looked at in her training, I don't think she was trying to be negative. I think she was using what she believes to be her educated stance to help to enlighten me on not wasting my time by pursuing something that, according to statistics, I probably wouldn't be successful at. Damn statistics. They don't take into account who you're going to run across, what kind of experiences you're going to have, what you know, if 48% don't, that means 52% do. Don't disrespect me with that.
Wow. Let's give a round of applause for you standing your ground and doing what you needed to do. But so go ahead. How did you transfer to here?
All right. So I went down to Hampton, Black college, 4 years of uninterrupted self-development, majored in psychology. Sophomore year in college, junior year in college, I just pledged, and there was this thing that happened out in LA. This dude was driving in a car, he wouldn't stop. LA police got behind him, they pulled him out of his car, and they beat the crap out of him. 67 stripes of batons. Cops surrounded him. He was in a Hyundai.
Rodney King.
And we know this because across the street was some dude with a video camera. He was recording the whole thing. We learned later that guy's name was Rodney King.
Right.
And all those officers were caught on camera. They were charged. They were indicted. Through some legal trickery that I can tell you about later, they moved the case to another area where those officers were acquitted. In 1992, when those officers were acquitted, our country erupted in riots.
Right. Those
were the LA riots in DC and Atlanta and Chicago and Miami. And I was a 20-year-old, bright-eyed, still had little street in me from Gary, Indiana. And I said, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be part of that group of people who understands the Constitution, who helps to advocate people when their rights have been violated, who teaches people, and who can prevent a group of people from once again being subverted to slavery if a bunch of people raised their hands in DC. And it was that incident, that flashbulb in our country's history that made me decide that I wanted to be a lawyer, and not just be a lawyer, I wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. And
let's give that a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. What type of inspiration? You don't hear stories like that.
Cincinnati was recruiting because UC was having some issues in the city in the early 90s with race at the university and at the law school and really in the city in general. And so University of Cincinnati, because of the issues, they specifically recruited Black students from Black colleges. And so they went to, when I was in law school, it was folks in my class, there wasn't that many of us. They were from Howard, they were from Hampton, they were from Morehouse, they were from Spelman, Central State, Tennessee State. I mean, we weren't just Black students, we were coming from Black colleges coming to UC. And one last thing before I'll entertain another question. When I got to Cincinnati, so crazy, in 1993, Cincinnati was in Better Homes. And Better Homes and Gardens put out this thing every year. They talk about the world's most livable city, and they talk about why and all this stuff. Right. So in 1993, Cincinnati was the world's most livable city. The least livable city on that same list, the bottom of the list, was my hometown of Gary, Indiana. So I looked and I said, well, that's crazy. I know how one side lived. Let me see what the other side is. And so that's really what brought me, kept me, planted me in Cincinnati, a riot, and trying to go to law school in order to understand this Constitution that we all live and exist under.
Oh, that's what's up. Hey, 1993, let's give that a round of applause. That's the year that my baby boy was born. That's the year my baby boy was born. He's so intelligent. He's so smarter than me. I don't think he heard that, and he better not take it to head. But anyway, yeah, 93 was a great year. So you in Cincinnati, and you trying to make a change. So you became a lawyer. What type of lawyer did you become? The civil rights lawyer here?
So my first job, I was a prosecutor. I was one of those folks who was standing in the courtroom trying to mete out responsibility and on folks for the wrong that they did. But more than that, and this is the philosophical piece. You know, we have problems in the community with the police, and we should, because historically we got some issues. We have problems with the system, and historically we should, because there's more than enough examples of how the system has been unequally tainted against us. So there's two ways to address the system. One way is we can stand on the outside. I read The Art of War. You can stand on the outside, throw rocks and missiles at the castle, hoping that you break some bricks down. Or you can maintain your focus on changing the system that you have a problem with, and you can work it from the inside in order to pull the bricks apart from inside of the castle. So as a prosecutor, I was able to actually work from the inside to make sure that the folks who were going to do what they do didn't do it in a disrespectful way while I'm sitting in the room. Because as the prosecutor, I'm the one making bills. As the prosecutor, I'm the one advocating to the judge for an outcome. And so as long as, and it was funny because as a prosecutor, I would see my other colleagues who didn't look like me. Some of them did. There was about 4 or 5 of us. My best friend was a prosecutor at the time. He's a judge now. We're judges together. The other folks who did not look like us, sometimes you just being in the room encourages people to change how they behave, because they're not going to treat folks that look like you in a certain way if you're standing and looking at them, because they realize there's going to be consequences if they do.
So how old was you when you was the prosecutor? And that was a prosecutor for the city of Cincinnati?
I was.
That was under Ditas? How does that work?
Well, I didn't work for Ditas. I was with the city. Ditas was the county prosecutor.
Okay, there's two different
I worked
things.
for a guy named Terry Cosgrove was my first boss at the prosecutor's office.
Okay, see, this is why we have to have folks on like you on the show so we can break this down and understand the dynamics of what's going on in our in the political world and in the judicial system too. And the reason why I say that is because when I put out that I was interviewing you, that you was coming to the show, I got a half and half response. You know what I'm saying? Like some people was excited about you being on the show, and some folks was, oh man, dude did me wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I had the same conversation when I had former attorney now, Professor Ken Lawson on the show. And directly after the show, a lady, oh my gosh, she hit every social media platform that I have and was fussing at me because I had him on the show. So my point is, when you was a city prosecutor, what type of cases came across your desk?
Misdemeanors, anything where somebody's facing 6 months in jail, or actually a year in jail or less. So you're talking about DUIs, assaults, domestic violence, resisting arrest, obstruction of official business, vehicular homicides. I used to average about 35 to 40 cases a day as a prosecutor. And that was, 5 days a week. And there's 2 prosecutors in every courtroom in municipal court, one for the city and one for the county. The city prosecutor handles those cases that happen within the city limits. The county prosecutor handles those cases that happen in the county, but outside of the city of Cincinnati limits.
Oh, okay.
And then the county prosecutor's office, common pleas, they handle all the felonies.
Oh, see, I never knew that, man. I just give a round of applause. See, this is why I'm glad I had you on the Cookie Show. You know what I'm talking about? I get to learn some things because being in that system, how much of the red tape and prejudice did you see?
So there were definitely instances where I told you, my experience growing up was I was very critical and skeptical and anti-system. And so I probably had a more jaundiced view of the things that were happening to some of my colleagues. What kind of stuff did I see? I remember one time, it was very, very clear, and it was I didn't keep my mouth quiet about it. There was a guy who came to the court to get his record expunged. A white dude had domestic violence, and the judge, I was the prosecutor, the judge dismissed it. He said, okay, we're gonna take this off your record, get you cleaned up, no problem. Literally 3 days later, black dude comes in there, domestic violence, trying to get it off his record. He had nothing else on his record. Same exact judge said, no, I'm not gonna do that. And so I, as the prosecutor, objected. And I'll tell you, his name was David Stockdale, Judge David Stockdale. I don't have a problem calling names.
Let's get that round of applause. Let's get that round of applause. You know what I'm talking about? It is what it is.
And so,
Right, drop the names.
And so when he refused to do that, I raised my hand and objected. Now, the prosecutor, I'm objecting to the judge's refusal.
Right.
I said, Judge, you can't do that. You just granted it to somebody else under the same circumstance a few days ago. And he looked at me over his glasses. He was like, I'm sustaining. I'm overruled. I'm not going to grant it. Well, I went back to my boss and I told him what happened. Well, funny enough, before I got back to the office, that same guy happened to have gone to high school with somebody in my office. And so he was there. And I said, that's exactly what it says, exactly what happened. Don't you know, my boss went to see the judge with an entry. And he said, if you don't reverse your decision, I'm going to file a grievance against you with the Supreme Court.
Let's give that a round of applause.
And it actually happened.
Because we don't hear that. You never hear the stories of us fighting on the news with all of the city council and everything. Is always us getting in trouble. It's never somebody in the system. You hear about them fighting the system. So seeing that and being a prosecutor, then you go ahead and move over to being a judge, correct?
Well, there was a few steps in between there. I'll say that there was a few steps in between.
Like what? Break it down.
I prosecuted for a couple of years, and then I left and went to a medium-sized firm where I started doing civil rights work. I was a civil rights lawyer. I sued municipalities. I did employment discrimination on race, on religion. I was the law director for the village of Lincoln Heights. I wrote all their laws. I represented all the public officials.
Whoa. See, where was you at when
Hey. Hey,
go ahead.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry because you said whoa. At the same time, because he started naming off all this stuff, and I'm thinking in my head like, where was you at, or where was I at?
Yeah, when I needed somebody like you.
Like you were doing a lot of good things, man. What? How come I didn't know about you?
I was president of the Black Lawyers Association during that same time, filing class action. Literally just fulfilling my dream. Like I went to law school in order to advocate. And that's exactly what I was doing. From the time I was 24 until I was 35, I was in and out of these courtrooms. I didn't even do criminal work after I left the prosecutor's office. I was doing civil work. I was filing lawsuits and getting outcomes for people.
Let me ask you, was that employment too?
Yeah, I did. I was
employment
discrimination lawyer.
That's crazy, man, because I had an incident with one of these companies that should remain nameless, but they forced me to go ahead and settle, and I should have took it to trial because the lawyers that they had and the lawyer that I had, and this lawyer was on Short Vine. I don't know where if you know what I'm talking about, but it was on Short Vine, and I have epilepsy, so they was representing me too. But the crazy part is, which I wasn't privy to the game till afterwards, was that the company's lawyer and my lawyer was in cahoots. And you know what I'm saying? Like I felt like I got railroaded into going in this direction, man. When you an Ohio employee, they say Ohio is one of the hardest states to sue employers. You agree?
Any state that's employment at will is difficult. But now you gotta understand, we're talking about the game. Folks understand the game. Court is not supposed to be an easy place. They don't make it an easy place for you to sue somebody, because if it was, then a whole lot more people would have a whole lot of money from these companies. The companies are the ones that fund the people who get in these positions. So they're not gonna make it easy to take money from them. And certainly the people who are making the decisions aren't gonna be in a position to give money away from the people that support them getting there. Come on now. If we're talking about the game, let's talk about how this works.
Let's give a round of applause for that. I like it. Yeah. So we went through that, but that, man, that's a pretty decent track record right there, man. All the stuff that you've been doing, that Rodney King getting beat upside the head really did affect you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm laughing, but we need that type of drive for real.
So at 32. I ran for prosecutor. You all will remember that Mike Allen, and we cool now, but Mike Allen was in a situation with one of his subordinates. He messed around with somebody in his office, and he wouldn't leave her alone. She was younger than he was. He was actually married to one of my colleagues who's a judge now. Boy, I tell you, I could write a book for y'all. But anyway.
Wow! This is the type of stuff that GRIZZBIZ want to hear about.
We need to read this. Know this stuff.
Wow.
So Mike was messing around, and when he wouldn't leave her alone, he was the county prosecutor. Well, at the time, Dieters was up as the treasurer. Mike had tried to get Dieters indicted for some stuff that was missing from the property room. He just never forgot that. So anyway, the scandal is going on in the prosecutor's office. This lawyer shows up and sends a letter to the prosecutor, who's Mike, saying, "We about to sue you for sexual harassment." So this scandal comes out. Well, at the time the scandal came out, this county was so red at the time, so Republican, there wasn't even Democrats that ran countywide. So there was no opponent for Mike Allen running in 2004 for prosecutor. Now, again, we had the riots. When we had the riots, I'll tell you one thing I did. I went to all the judges and I sent them a copy of this report that said to make sure that they're aware of a Supreme Court report that said we have two sets of justice as they're dealing with these cases from the riots and what have been going on. I filed a class action against the city. Anyway, y'all ain't looking for my autobiography. Bottom line, when that thing happened,
yeah, we are.
Mike ended up stepping down. And he stepped down because I stepped in to run as a write-in for prosecutor. He stepped down. Dieters came back and he ran as a write-in. So in 2004, 32 years old, I had been president of Black Lawyers. I had these class action lawsuits. I had actually sued the union here on behalf of the Black firefighters. I was a lawyer for the Black firefighters. And actually, through that lawsuit, I was able to get integrated firehouses in the city of Cincinnati.
Let's give that a round of applause. We don't want that to go past. I remember Vader was lightweight talking about that. That's what's up. All right, continue.
And before that, had represented a 5-year-old who got handcuffed by the police. But by that time, in 2004, I stepped in to run because we needed a change in the system. I never intended to be in politics. I'm not a politician, never been a politician. I'm a brother who got involved in politics. And I got into politics only to run for prosecutor because that is truly the single most powerful position that we have. It is that position that decides the criminal justice policy. It is that position that decides whether folks get indicted or who they don't. It's that position that literally runs the police departments, because when police bring their cases to the prosecutor's office, either they accept them or reject them. So they set the policies on how the police deal with folks. So I said, you know what? There needs to be some intentional actions, progress, addressing of certain disparities in our system, and that prosecutor's office is truly the best, easiest way to get there. So I ran for prosecutor at 32 years old, not from the city, ran as a write-in, raised more money than Dieters did during that same time, but folks didn't know me. And there was a Black lawyer, and we could talk about strategy, because every time a Black person runs for prosecutor, they go and get a Black person who's well known in the community to attack that.
To attack them. Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you who that person was who was out attacking me. You had him on your show. I can say his name. You can. You just did. But anyway.
Who? So Mr. Lawson?
Don't get me started. You told him.
Hey, no, because no. That's crazy, because while you telling me what's going on, I'm thinking to myself, and my next question was like, why wasn't you and Ken Lawson on the same page working hand in hand? Because his story and your story, as far as dealing with these folks and dealing with this is like the same. Like, so you telling me the same? And Ken, we're gonna have to have y'all both on here again, because I find that crazy. Like, so you telling me that go ahead. They put I can't even get it out. Go.
So again, we talking game. All right. So before I met Ken when I was in law school. He was a mentor, kind of like a big brother to me. In fact, when I became president of the Black Lawyers, he said, "Tell you what, I got your back. I'll support you." I mean, it was good. It's not that many Black lawyers in the city. So,
right.
We all know each other. Eric Kearney is like my big brother. Met him in law school. Him and his wonderful wife, Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney, the vice mayor. Again, they're like big brother and big sister to me, have been since I've been here. And I've mentored literally dozens of students who have come through here, because that's an obligation I feel like I have, because other folks did it for me when they didn't have to. Right. But anyway, with regard to Ken, the reason that we had the image about Dieters that we did in this community being a racist, uncaring, horrible person came from Ken.
Wasn't lying.
He's the one that painted that picture for us.
He wasn't lying.
The battle that he had with him. Look through the old newspaper articles.
Right. Let's give Ken Lawson a round of applause for that.
Dieters came back in town.
So how did he switch sides? We got to have him on the side so he can tell his story too.
Here's game. What a lot of us internally knew, and I learned this in politics and stuff, is that people accepted political designations around here for personal gain. So what came out was that Ken was actually a Republican during a time in the city when Black folks in the city were, identifying as Democrats. But for personal relationships and stuff, he was cool with and was actually a registered Republican. And so, what from inside game is that they actually engage their folks to take on certain battles behind the scenes. You don't know, you only see the battle. You don't know why that person is stepping up to engage in a particular battle.
Wow.
And so I was blindsided. I'm telling you. So here and I was explaining to somebody else the other day. So in that write-in race, you had and it's funny the names that pop up. We're talking 18 years ago, 19 years ago now. Mike Allen stepped down, but before he stepped down, there were people calling for him to step down. You had Melissa Powers, who we know Melissa Powers now is about to be the next county prosecutor starting on Thursday. So Melissa Powers, who was a private lawyer, had been a prosecutor, she stepped up to run against Mike Allen. There was a guy named Tim Ruger, I think was his name. He stepped up to run against Mike Allen. These are Republicans. So you had white, female, white, male. On the Democratic side, you had Jody Lubers, who's a judge now. She was also had previously been a county prosecutor. Her father had been a longtime judge. You had John Cranley, who ended up being so you had white woman, white male, Democrats, white woman, white male, Republicans. Then you had this one little black dude from Gary, Indiana, who had been a lawyer, who had been arguing in and out of court, who wasn't afraid of nobody, and he stepped up to run. So who was going to be the counter on the other side? They didn't have anybody. And the fear was, politically, that I, with my demographic by age and by race, could invigorate and excite a lot of people to come out and participate in elections. So they had to do something to counter the potential for who may be coming out and participating, because it could affect all the other stuff, most importantly, the presidential election. And I'm not just talking, I got a letter from back then from Dieters explaining to his funders why he decided to run for prosecutor again. And it said because they were afraid that because of the scandal in the prosecutor's office, Democrats may be invigorated and it may affect the presidential election.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, look, you asked me to come on. I told you I don't pull no punches. And
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and I'm also I got Kelly Prather in my head too. Let's give Kelly Prather a round of applause, because she's fighting a good fight. In every corner she hits it. And it's not just from them people, it's from our people. But damn, man, damn, I know some shit in the game. I really did, but I just didn't know how deep this stuff goes, man. And they talk about votes don't count, and then they talk about swaying. I had a guy on here, and people would have thought this was conspiracy theory if they didn't know no better. God dang. So they threw Ken Lawson at you, right? That's what you're saying?
So yeah, and you know, and let me just say this: years after all this stuff happened, when he went through very public battles, he and I talked. We cool again, you know. Yeah. We aight, but I mean, you know, right. We did talk, and I'll be very honest with you. Whether he'll admit it or not, he apologized. I mean, he apologized for that stuff. Right. And he gave me some explanation about why it happened and all that. And, you know, all good. You know, respect the man for what he did and everything. But I personally would never forget. I'm a new button lawyer. That had the potential for not only affecting an election, a very important election that has everything to do with how our system operates and how it treats our folks, but that could have messed up my own personal career. A lesser man would have walked away from the practice of law. Right. But that's not where I was at. Right. So after the prosecutor's race, like I said, outraised Dieters in that first race. I got on everybody's radar at that point. I went on continuing to try cases, and 3 years later, I was 35 years old, and the governor called me up and asked me if I wanted to be a judge. And
which
so at
governor?
35 years old, I became a judge
DeWine?
in Ohio.
DeWine?
No. It was Strickland, Ted Strickland.
Oh, Ted Strickland.
And when I got on the bench, for folks that care, I was the first Democratic judge in Hamilton County in 16 years. 16 years. Wow. And what did that mean? It didn't mean anything for my rulings, because my rulings have nothing to do with politics. But politics comes into play in the courthouse when it comes to jobs, when it comes to policies, when it comes to committees, when it comes to different things that happen. Like that's why politics matters in the courthouse. But in individual courtrooms, politics don't have anything to do, or at least it shouldn't, with the rulings that people make on their cases. So being a judge, making that transformation in a judge,
And now you're seeing these cases. Now I'm gonna just keep it 100 with you. When you go, you just gave an example of how you fought for this folk to get the same treatment as this other folk with different skin color. Now this stuff is coming across your desk right now. So I had to ask, did you go harder on the other folk or did you go harder on our folk? Because the folk that you went hard on, I guess, that didn't want to see the interview or whatever they didn't want to be a part of the interview, had to do something to come in front of your courtroom. And
I have to, you know what? It would really surprise me that anybody would say that I wasn't fair. And obviously, you know, we are our own worst critics, but we also can only behold what it is that we believe. And so if somebody says I wasn't fair to them, okay. There's a lot of folks, and whether I was more fair to our folks or more fair to other folks,
that's politics, and it ain't any.
There's a lot of folks that say I was pretty hard, particularly in the beginning, on folks that didn't look like us coming in front of me. I don't think that's true. I think I was fair across the board. Nobody ever said, and my goal when I became a judge was for everybody to say, look, I ain't agree with him. I'm okay with what he did because he explained it, and it was fair. I don't necessarily like it, but I get it. That was my objective. And because I knew the law, I was one of the few judges to take the bench, number one, at my age, but second of all, one of the few judges to not only have been a prosecutor, but also to have been on the defense side of the table in some cases, who not only was a plaintiff's lawyer. I told you I was practicing civil rights law. I was representing folks in federal court and class action lawsuits before I became a judge, but I was also representing companies, advising them on how to stay out of court in the first place. That's a circle view. But I was also one of the few judges who actually stepped in the streets before I got on the bench. So the people who were coming in front of me, I had a little better understanding of why they were in their situation when they were standing there than my other colleagues who came in the world like this and stayed there. I didn't come in the world like that. I had to move up a little bit.
Yeah, I feel you. I know when I graduated from high school, I said I was going to be a police officer. So I took the written test and passed the test. But when it came to take the physical part, I was already in the streets doing stuff. And I kept thinking like, damn, this one, I'm going hard on them people. I'm going to be honest. I would have went hard on them people. And being the judge, if I was in your position, I'd have went hard on them people because their biggest fear is us governing them. That's why we're going through all this. So how about a little taste of your own medicine? Let's give Grizz a round of applause. Let's give Grizz a round of applause because me, I'd have put it on you. I'd have put that steak back on you just to know how I feel. You go back out there like, so somebody could tell you a horror story about going in front of Judge Griswold's court. God damn it. But anyway.
So let me say this. I do a lot of public speaking. I travel. I was an adjunct professor of history at the University of Cincinnati. In my order, I write lectures and I travel. I mean, that's one of the things that I do. And I study, I lecture, I teach. I try to instill in other folks understanding like I've gotten understanding and from a different perspective so that it's easy to digest. And one of the things that I talked about, a lot of things that I talked about, one of the things I talked about is nobody ever told me treat me better than somebody else. Everybody I ever heard said treat me the same as everybody else. And that was always my goal. I'm never gonna give somebody a better shake than somebody else. I'm gonna make sure everybody gets treated the same when they came through my courtroom. Nobody ever had to worry about what gender, race, age, socioeconomic status, job, organizational connections, none of that stuff. When you came into the courtroom, everybody got treated the same, police officers included. And some cops used to get mad at that because they felt like just because they were cops, they had a higher form of credibility in my courtroom. I said, no. Everybody who takes the stand starts off at a base level. And until you're shown not to be credible or until you're shown to be more credible than the person you're testifying against, then y'all all in the same place.
Let's get a round of applause. Because, yeah, my mentality wasn't to be there where yours is right now. And that's what's up. I'm sitting there like, he is Mr. Goody Two Shoes. No, you're convicted. But you're right. I wouldn't give them police officers no. You are not on the higher plane. In fact, I would have went harder on them. But anyway, go ahead.
So one of the things I would lecture about to the criminal justice community was the statistics around the country when it came to the disparities in our criminal justice system. That ain't no secret. Ain't no secret that when it comes to Ohio, for every one white person that, for every 248 whites, there's one white person in prison. For every black person in Ohio, it's like 2,100. I mean, the statistics are nuts. Wisconsin is the worst. Look it up later if y'all don't understand what I'm talking about. But bottom line, the prisons are full with numbers that are not reflective of the communities and the state's populations as it relates to black and white folks. That's just the truth of it. And, I read that stuff. 13th was one of my favorite documentaries. Ava Dave on there. If you haven't watched it yet, the 13th Amendment. And I used to teach history class, and it didn't even like hopping in my mind that we were taught 13th, 14th, and 15th. Freed slaves, equal rights, right to vote. That's what the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments were. Right to slavery. I mean, slavery's gone. 14th Amendment, equal rights. 15 is vote. That's not what the 13th Amendment says. The 13th Amendment says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except for which a crime has been committed. No, it gives an exception for the existence of slavery and involuntary servitude, which means slavery is allowed to exist under the Constitution if you've been convicted of a crime. So the 13th Amendment, that's why it's called 13th, the documentary is, because it talks about how all those things work and how they came to be and how the war on drugs, blew up the prison population and how different presidents have used certain fear tactics in order, and how political folks, and they use this against me in 2020, how political folks use race as a proxy for lack of safety or danger and for criminality. And 13th, man, I love that documentary. But I would look at the documentary now, look at these statistics, and then I get somebody in front of me, young man. I remember one case in particular. This 19-year-old dude had pulled a gun on an 8-year-old boy. Both of them black. 19-year-old boy pulled a gun on a little boy 10 years younger than him. Now, I sat and I thought, all right, I know that our criminal justice system is unequal and unfair. I know that the prisons are full of young black men, more so by percentage than whites, Asians, or Hispanics. I'm looking at this situation here, and I say, do I say 13th and statistics require me to let this young man go with a slap on the wrist and say, don't do that anymore? What do I do with those statistics under those circumstances? Do I let them make my decision about what consequence that young man is going to get for putting that fear in that young man?
Now, if I was in that shoes in this scenario right now, statistics wouldn't even come in my head. What they're doing the right thing would come in my head like you're doing. Like, hey, at least I think that's what you're doing at. Like, no, you up out of here, bro. Whatever it is, you need to be gone pulling that gun on a 10-year-old young baby. And I agree with that. And most of the black community will have an issue with what you're saying and what you're doing. We see this so many times in the streets of Cincinnati. Ray Boo Boo then killed this Negro right here. And the Negro that he didn't kill is just as bad as this Negro. It's like a fine line with black folk, man. A fine line between stupidity and stuck on stupid and relaxed on dumb. I think that mind frame is hindering us back, and we'll never become one. I know you had to get frustrated doing what you was doing.
No, I mean, I grew up in Gary. I went to a black college. I exist in a pretty black world. Like you said, I'm an alpha. I'm also a Mason. I'm a member of the AME church. I mean, I'm about probably my full name is Fanon Rucker. And that wasn't no name I made myself when I was in college. That was my birth name. On October 16th of 1995, I was in DC on the mall at the Million Man March. I studied, Nation of Islam when I was in college. Frustrated by what I saw on the bench. Come on, man. I lived at that point 37, 38, 40 years of trying to figure that thing out. So It didn't frustrate me to see that in that vein. Right. It frustrated me when people said there's no progress, nothing ever changes. And it frustrated when people say things will never change. That's what frustrated me.
Well, you must
When
be
people
mad at me
accept the
then.
tradition is saying nothing ever gonna be different.
Well, you must be mad at me then, because I just, like I said, gave examples of social media and how we attack each other, how mind frames is. We have been Willie lynched. Willie lives in the Negro brain. So if Willie's still living in the Negro brain, ain't nothing gonna change. We got brothers like you trying to do your thing. I ain't gonna say try, but doing your thing, developed in the game. So you try, like you said, break it down from within side, but that's like a jigsaw puzzle with 1,000 freaking pieces. Now, you mentioned you's a Mason. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You know what I'm saying?
I may answer them.
You may answer them, and you may not answer them. I have a lot of Mason friends.
Let me say this. I don't deny my membership.
Right.
I am a 33rd degree Mason.
Oh,
I'm a statewide officer in the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio. I'm a past master of Pride of the Valley Lodge number 95. I'm a past patron of Pride of the Valley chapter number 71, Eastern Star, Order of Eastern Star.
Say it with your chest.
Ask me what you want to ask me.
You say it with your chest. Can we give a round of applause? Say it with your chest. Give a round of applause for that. That nigga came right at it. He said, and this goes out to my homeboy, Tarif, a.k.a. Scott. I hope you pay attention to the show today, because we definitely was talking about this because he know you. And I was like, and he parted, the team too. And I was like, I really wanted to say, like, I know there is there's white and black in that organization, right?
No doubt.
And without, not how they can side, but does that sound like, let me refer back to the movie with Ving Rhames. You remember that movie?
Of course.
Is it anything like that? Is it anything like that as far as the help or the hindrance? That's all. You got to, after that, we're going to go on to something else.
I ain't never seen it that deep.
Okay.
Let me say that. But there certainly is relationships.
Okay.
But it's no different. Let me give another example. So take it outside of masonry.
All right.
And you say that, like I said, I'm AME. I'm African Methodist Episcopal.
Right.
And there are Methodist churches.
Right.
And so if as an AME, I'm having an issue where I'm being targeted or I'm in trouble, I can arguably go to my Methodist Christian brothers and sisters for assistance and protection. And arguably, because we have a same core set of beliefs, arguably, they're going to be supportive and helpful. Arguably.
Okay.
It's no different.
Okay.
Arguably, that a relationship exists. But I'll tell you, there were Masons in the North and the South during the Civil War. Trust me, they was fighting each other during that time too. White and black.
Okay, dig that. So I'm gonna just keep it 100 because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but with the way the world's workings and the way that you are fighting, never mind. We ain't gonna go there. We'd like to thank you for being on the show because I don't want nobody coming after me.
I'm typing in your address on my phone right now.
You got the dark shades on. The dark shades is on.
I see your the bird's eye view of your location.
You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, hey man, I'm glad you come on the show here, man. So after the judge, and now you're working with the Johnny Cochran. Is that the right thing, Johnny Cochran firm?
It is.
Wow.
So in 2019, I was an officer of our state judges association. I had written more decisions than any other judge in the courthouse, probably more than any of the other judges combined. I was a very active, still am, engaging member of the community, and I really had gotten to a peak. And then there was this prosecutor's race that was opening back up, a rematch from 2004 that was open to 2020. As a judge, you cannot run for prosecutor while you're on the bench. The only time you can run for another judge seat, or the only time a judge can run and not step down from being a judge, is when they run for another judge seat. So when I ran for Supreme Court back in 2012, I was still a judge. I could run for my seat. In order to run for prosecutor, I had to retire or step down. So in April, started having these conversations with a very, very, very close friend of mine. We've been friends since the first day of law school. He is the managing partner, the president of the Cochran firm here in the state of Ohio. We have offices in 44 states, 33 states, 44 offices. He runs Cochran, Ohio. And he was like, man, I know you went to law school to make a difference, make a change. Where you at with it? And I was frustrated because there was a voice missing in the community. In every community you go to, large communities, there's a Black attorney who the community relies on, who media can talk to, who's connected politically, who knows the law, who gets good outcomes, who people trust. And we didn't have that in Cincinnati in 2019. And there were things that were happening I couldn't talk about because as a judge, you're restricted on certain levels about what you say. I have a lot of mentees, but you can't tell your story like you can tell your story. Nobody else can. And nobody else can speak your truth like you can speak your truth. So even though you tell one of your mentees, go out there and talk about this, if that ain't in their soul and in their heart, then they're not going to say it the same way that you need to say it. And so I got to this place of being frustrated. I got this place of a ceiling. I got to the place of saying, I want to go back and run this race for prosecutor again. My guy said, come join the Cochran firm. We got you. We got a landing place for you. If you can run for prosecutor from this spot and we'll support you, even if you're not successful. You got a home here. You can get back out here and storm the castle again and do the stuff that you do. And so it was a no-lose situation for me to retire from the bench after 13 years, having done what I did, having set up some stuff, mentored judges, mentored prosecutors and defense attorneys, and go out here and start working in an office that was already established and already had a national reputation for success, particularly when it comes to civil rights and personal injury. And so here I am. I actually am the managing attorney in our Cincinnati office. Wow. And, people, whatever it is, people call me.
Let's get it
if
around
it's elected officials, they call me for representation. Folks, when they get injured, I got a lot of wrongful death cases. Tragically, people pass away under different circumstances. They call me for that stuff because they know I know what I'm doing and they know I know how to, how this stuff works. I have not lost a single criminal trial since I retired from the bench. And that's between Butler County, Hamilton County, and Warren County. I have not lost a single trial since I've
That's what's up. I see you back on the right side of the game. Even though the prosecution even though the prosecutor, like you said, is the most important official in the game in the city where I sit here. I got a question. Since you've been so deep rooted in the system on both sides and so forth in the political world here, what do you see going forward as far as Cincinnati? How do we weed out this corruption, continue to try and weed out this corruption? And the last question is, will Cincinnati and Dayton never come together? But go ahead and see what the first question.
Is that like an East Coast, West Coast thing? I don't know what you mean. What's in that?
When they merging, the expansion of Cincinnati, growing and so forth. Like
too much territorialism. That'll never happen. But you talk about weeding out corruption. That's that issue about things will never change. In the past 2 weeks, we've had 2 separate judges who have released on bond individuals who were convicted under circumstances that were very questionable.
Yes, let's give a round of applause for that. Because one of them that you're talking about is in Blue Ass. And quote unquote, some evidence have been withheld by your boy, allegedly, because I don't want to come up here, allegedly coming at, your boy who is now in Congress, who you had the run-ins with.
Now on the Supreme Court.
Oh, Supreme Court. It's still some stuff to hinder us. But I'm glad you corrected me, though. But still, I lost where I was going.
No. I'm talking about the changes that are being made in the system, and it's all about who's in these positions. So you have Judge Wendy Cross, who said, I'm not listening to public clamor. I'm not listening to the criticism on one of these radio stations where they go and talk about us all the time. I'm not going to worry about that stuff. I'm going to do what I know to be right based on the law and based on my experience.
Is she white?
That's what's up.
She white?
And then there's another judge, Judge Jody Lubers. Judge Jody Lubers did the same thing. And the prosecutor's office even said, we're not actually going to challenge the ruling because we acknowledge we didn't even know that evidence was out there. And so now he probably shouldn't be convicted. And after 12 years of being in prison, we're not going to object to him being let out. One dude, 30 years. One dude, 12 years.
Oh,
when I
my
ran for
gosh.
prosecutor, I said we have to create a conviction integrity unit within the prosecutor's office. Why? Because across the country, they're being set up to review questionable outcomes in controversial cases. And in Baltimore, how many people have been released because the prosecutor has said, oh my gosh, this was not proper. This person should not be in prison. We hid this evidence, or worse yet, somebody else confessed to it and we didn't even look at that confession. And people were literally released, innocent people, because of conviction integrity units. Now, these judges are serving in that capacity, but how many other cases of individuals
Exactly.
are those same circumstances?
Exactly.
The change is putting people like these judges and like prosecutors who say, hey, look, I'm going to put folks away when they cause harm to other folks, ain't no doubt. But we're going to make sure that the law is followed when these convictions are actually obtained. We're going to hold folks accountable for bringing evidence and cases to court so that we don't have to worry 20, 30 years from now whether DNA shows that this is not the right person. And in those cases where there's a suggestion that somebody's innocent, we are, as a prosecutor's office, because the job of a prosecutor, according to the United States Supreme Court, is not to seek convictions, it's to seek justice. That's the job of the prosecutor. The job of the prosecutor is not to seek convictions, but to seek justice. And if the prosecutors actually abide by their true responsibility, then justice is the goal. Justice is the outcome, not convictions and victories.
Let's get it around.
So how do we make this system less corrupt? How do we make this system less corrupt? We get people in these positions who understand and recognize their obligation. That's how we do it. And it happens. It's happened here. It's happened in other places. And we can continue to make it happen. I mean, that's how it happens.
Well, a part of that game of making a change will be to bring the attention in the media part, these judges who are doing that. That part is lagging because we don't know. We see who might catch it on the news, a quick glimpse. Man being released after, they don't even say dude's name or this, that, and the third. It's a quick pow being released, granted a new trial, whatever. That's what it was. It was granted a new trial. Boom, boom, boom. So in order for people to cling to politics and go along with this change, we have to know about these changes, about these judges that you're referring to, these people who are making a change. And 9 times out of 10, like I just said, man, they're gonna shoot that right past. But I
don't know. I put part of the responsibility on the media, but I put a whole lot of responsibility on the individuals.
Yes.
We, the media, versus the me. How about that? The media does have, I think, a responsibility to make sure that the good information and the helpful information is actually put out there. And there are some outlets who are trying to do that. And then there's the me. The me is, I got to be interested in knowing that the system works a particular way by knowing who those folks are. They say all politics is local. What does that mean? That means that we run to the ballot box when it's time to run for president. We run to the ballot box when it's time to vote for governor. We don't really show up on city council races. We don't really show up on judicial races. But the reality is I'm more inclined to meet a city council member or a judge than I am to meet the president. So I should realize that I'm going to be more affected daily by what the judges and the mayors do and the city council members do than the president does. The president's the figurehead off of 400 miles away, except when he come to town every once in a while. Those judges might affect me, my cousin, my sister, my daughter, my next door neighbor on a daily basis. And the rulings that they make affect me emotionally daily.
And I believe most Cincinnatians know that.
If they know that, they would show up in more than 30% when it's time to vote.
Because from what I'm hearing, the streets is talking, these people ain't be claiming who they be when it's time to get in and do what they do. You know what I'm saying? When it's time, we don't know nothing about these folks that they put on TV. We don't even know who running until running. This is masses. Now you can do the me, and the me part, like you said, take the time to investigate and go do this and go do that. But even when you go investigate some of these folks, I done met folks that just queuing and they not who they say they was. Or I meet them out and about and they not who they said he was. They get on city council and, man, they didn't flip the script. They didn't play the game like these other folks playing the game. They getting caught up with briberies and doing more money and whatever the hell is going. I don't know how that shit worked. I know I tried to run for mayor. I thought I tried to go through the process, and I went over there and did what I did. And when they got to talking about my finances and all this and stacks of paper this big, I backed out like in that Simpsons meme where dude went back in the bushes. Whoa, this shit here, nigga. This shit here, nigga.
So one of the things that I'm critical about when it's campaigning, and again, I've mentored a lot of folks who have run for office, who are successful in office, who are sitting in positions now. And I tell them, I'm not supporting you and helping you if you asking me to help you out by making speeches. If you showing up at a church and you don't go to church 51 other weeks out of the year, don't call me asking me to come to church with me so I can introduce you to my congregation and my pastor. I'm not playing those games. And I warn folks when I'm standing in front of congregations around election time, when folks start coming to you telling you all the jobs they're gonna create, look in their background and see how many jobs they created before they made that speech. When folks talk about all the justice they gonna bring when they get in the position of judge and prosecutor, look in their backgrounds. Because it's available. I mean, we're in a social media age. We're in an age where everybody's lives are open books, particularly if you run for office. So when they making these promises to you, if they making these promises about all the stuff they gonna do, the best predictor of what somebody's gonna do is what somebody has done. And so if somebody coming into talking about all the stuff they gonna do, but you look in their background, they ain't done them, don't fall for that crap because the speech sound good. That's a me thing.
That's 95% of the people that's running.
Okay, then vote for the other 5.
Okay, I hear you.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, hey, there are legitimate folks who run. Trust me, had I been a prosecutor, shit would have been different.
I believe that. I believe that.
Positions.
I believe that. When's the next time?
Why did I lose? Because I got raced. I got Willie Horton. You know what that means?
No, please explain.
So back in early 80s, there was this guy named Willie Horton. I think he was on death row or something like that. He got out and he killed some little white girl, I believe it was. And so when Mondale, I might not have these names right, he was running for president, he got released under that person who was running. So they showed this black dude being released from prison, and then like these horrible, angry, scary pictures and images that scared the electorate about voting for that person. So in 2020, I'm running for prosecutor. Now, mind you, I got universal acceptance among judges, prosecutors, everybody else. The prosecutors used to fight over it starting in my room first. Defense attorneys all said, hey, look, we ain't never taking no juries to him because we think Fanon is more fair than a jury will be. So ain't nobody got no beef with me. So I'm running, and all of a sudden I see these ads where I'm like in a hoodie, and they're showing these people rioting, and they talking about how this secret group is coming to town to support Fanon Rucker. And then they literally started smashing out cars remember, this is right after summer of 2020 with all the social justice thing and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. That ad was an ad of racist imagery.
Right.
And so they started running the ad because their numbers started showing, and ours did too, that it was impacting those suburban areas like they needed it to turn them against supporting this person, supporting me. So I lost. Now, how do I know that it was about race? I got a handwritten letter right after the election. And mind you, I raised almost $2 million in that election. Nobody else had ever, as a Democrat running for any office, raised anywhere near that kind of money. I outraised all the rest of the folks who were running on the ticket combined. All the rest of the folks on the ticket who were running with me got elected, except me. And here's what I got. I believed it was about race. I got a handwritten letter the week after the election. It was written, and the woman put her return address on it. It had her name, everything, the date she wrote it. Nice little stationery. I still got the letter. And it said Judge Rucker, because people still call me Judge Rucker because I'm retired. Here go my certificate from the Supreme Court saying I'm Judge Rucker forever. I'm a retired judge. So she said, Judge Rucker, I am a proud Democrat. I'm 64 years old. I voted for every Democrat on the ticket, and I'm proud to say, except you.
Damn.
I voted for Dieters.
Damn. Burn that paper.
And she wrote that in the letter, like handwritten letter, cursive and everything.
I would burn it.
Said, the reason I did that is because every time I saw images of you, I thought about Black militant. And I was afraid that if you got elected, you would bring those traits with you to the office.
Wow.
She wrote that and put her name on it. So it wasn't like some anonymous Willie. Now I'm gonna tell you, Willie Lynch is the fake letter. We can talk about that. But it wasn't like some anonymous, like, fake letter. Like literally, she put her name on it and said, and we looked her up, and literally she was a voter in a particular part of town. And she was reflective of those suburban whites who were scared by the image of this black dude in the hood who was a judge, who had never done anything, crazy, but all of a sudden was going to start rioting when I became a prosecutor. How stupid is that?
Hey, man, that is
So
crazy.
those images make
Those images.
a significant impact on people's thoughts and what they chose to vote on. So they did their job. That's crazy.
That's exactly right. It did his job.
Hey, man.
It did his job.
Hey, man.
And so as I said, I got Willie Horton. I got Willie Horton in 2020 in Hamilton County.
I don't mean cut you off, but
Yeah.
I know we got to get up out of here. Nikki got to do her thing too, but you said Willie Lynch letters are fake, man.
Yeah.
Everything that's in them letters is what people what black people do.
Yeah. So this is the deal, and I found this about
damn.
12 years ago. People didn't know about it, or they didn't accept it until actually even about a year ago. If you look up Farrakhan, he talks about it. But Willie Lynch letter was found in 1964. What was going on in 1964? That was the height of the civil rights movement. And so what's come out is that it was actually a black professor who wrote the letter in imagery. Talking about, we know what it says. It says that this is the way to keep your slaves enslaved for the next several generations. You'll have your light skin fighting against your dark skin. That wasn't an actual letter. It was literally a literary piece written in 1964. Look it up.
Yeah, but
it's still deep. Don't get me wrong.
I'm about to say, because nigga, whatever he wrote or whatever wrote it is happening. Our mind frame is that. Exactly, down to the T.
It was at the time. He was writing a reflective piece. And he didn't tell folk that he wrote it at the time. He later confessed to it. But no, and that was the point of it. And again, it was written in 1964, which was, we talking about in the height, in the heat.
Oh, man, I feel so.
And that was the purpose.
I feel
it was
so
written to invigorate folks and excite folks and to say, that's what we got to avoid. And this is how we got to undo what's been done. Psychologically, the letter gives that truth about our generational curses.
Okay, that part. Okay, there's some truth to it. It's not false.
Yeah, of course.
It's truth to it, and that is the mind frame. That's all that matters. Okay, the white man didn't write it. A nigga wrote it, and he figured out what the white man was doing, and it's still affecting us to this day. Crab in the barrel mentality. That's what's up.
That's right.
That's what's up.
Right.
Hey, man. I definitely want to give you a round of applause. I learned so much today. I was curious about, a little nervous, like, damn, how this gonna go? But
I wish I
be
had
me.
known you back in the day. I needed you way back in the day.
You know what I'm talking about?
A couple years ago.
So before you get up out of here, we're gonna if you want to, you can leave now. But right now, we're gonna give Miss NikiiBabay, her true reviews. She do true reviews on different products and so if you step out, that's all good. We appreciate you coming and doing your thing. I know you might have things to do, but we appreciate that. And I look forward to maybe doing it again later.
Anytime. I appreciate you all. Blessings.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Miss NikiiBabay. Let's give Miss NikiiBabay a round of applause. So, your true reviews. What you reviewing today?
All right, what we got today is, listen. All right, we got my Truly Beauty's lip care kit. Now, a couple years ago, I was
That
looking
sound
for a
funny,
lip
lip
scrub.
care
So I
kit.
was like, I got to get my lips together. I was like, some people want to get your lips together, get it back soft, plumpy, soft and, smooth and stuff. You got to get rid of that excess skin, that nasty stuff. So anyway, I was looking for a good scrub, and back then I was using like Mary Kay, and I'm like, nah.
Let me stop
that,
you.
that was gross.
Let me stop you.
Hello?
Let me stop you. Did you say you scrub your lips?
You use a lip scrub. Oh my God. Come on now.
Here he go.
Okay, go back. It just sounded funny. Go ahead. Continue.
Listen, okay. Yes, you got to, you just like you got to, you know what I'm saying? You do your foot scrub. You got to take care of your body. Okay, this is for your lips. All right. So anyway, I was looking for a nice lip scrub so I can, you know what I'm saying, get them back together. You know what I'm saying? Get a nice juicy full. And I was also looking for a nice plumper. So Truly, which you can find their products on trulybeauty.com is the website you can go to. And they have different products. They have all kinds of different skincare products and beauty care products. But what I did is I bought the lip care kit, and it comes up with a 4-step lip care kit. Okay. And it comes with the sexy soft lip scrub. Okay. This is with the stuff that you use to scrub off the stuff that you talk about. I scrub my lips. Yes, you use the lip scrub. Okay. And then you also get the plumping serum. All right, I use all this stuff. I ain't even got no more to really show y'all because this is what I really got it for. I was like, I want to plump my lips up, get them ready for the summertime.
So is that an alternative to Botox?
Listen, I would say that's the cheap way to go. You know what I'm saying? Let's start there because, you know what I'm saying? I can't afford the Botox yet, but okay, we're going to start with the lip plumping. Okay, we're going to start
plumping.
There. All right. Right. Okay, and then we're going to go with the big juicy lip oil. You can add that to, it's like a moisturizer as well. And then also it comes with the other one that is gone. Somehow, unfortunately, it melted. It's like a little, it's like what you call it? It's like a butter, but it's like a little whipped butter. And I had it outside during the summertime, so in my car it melted, so it's all gone. I need to get a new one. But anyway, you have 4 of the products, and also it comes with this little cute little spoon that you can dip in and apply it to your lips with. So you got to use your finger, which is gross. You also get a cute little travel bag that they send with it as well. And it comes with a little chain that you can clip onto there, but I didn't take it off because I don't use that. And I also got the little silk bag. It's a travel bag too. It comes with it if you want to get this little kit. They also have plenty other stuff for your face. Beauty stuff is exfoliants, hair mask, chest and neck sleep mask, shave kit, tighten and smooth your booty butt butter, which I haven't used yet. Yeah.
How you can't say booty butt butter?
Butt butter. They also got the boob butter too. So, yeah. So if you want to check those out, you can check them out at trulybeauty.com. Okay, but
trulybeauty.com.
Yes.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give True? I can't even say it.
Truly, get it out.
I'm all right. Ooh, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, what did you give?
I really give it an 8. Their product's really good for me. I give it an 8.
That's what's up. Let's give a round of applause for Miss NikiiBabay and her true review today. Oh man, I'm gonna have fun with this one. But I really enjoyed the show today. Before we get up out here, I want to give our sponsors a shout out. Drummond Home Solutions for all your electrical needs. You know, not a job too big or too small for them. You can reach out to them and get a quote, an estimate of the project that you're doing. And you can reach them at, dag nabbit. I'm laughing too much. Is it 266-8290? Anyway, it's Drummond Home Solutions, LLC.com. Email them and get a quote. And they'll take care of you. Yeah, I can't see that far, but we'll look them up. I also want to give a shout out to a company I'm involved with, Dank Nation. You know what I'm talking about? Let's give Dank Nation a round of applause. And I always put it wrong on here. I'm part of the company and do it. Go to www.danknation.co and grab you some gear. We got fly T-shirts. We gearing up to be Ohio's #1 premium brand. So pay attention. We post stuff in the Dank Nation page where you can go and get your needs. And we keep up with the legislation and the action is being taken forth to make Ohio recreational legal and everything. So, because it's time. It's beyond time. So we want to give them a round of applause. And also we want to shout out to Goodies Barbecue. Like I said, Goodies Barbecue is back, man. Go on to Hamilton Avenue. Grab you some
Get
goodies.
it out.
You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I've been to a lot of different barbecue places, and when it comes to them rib tips in that bucket, you ain't getting the quality or the quantity that you're getting when you go to Goodies Barbecue. And he got some new signature dishes coming out too, so that's what's up with that. Let's give Goodies Barbecue a round of applause. And we got to always shout out Mr. Bagman, out on Cochran and Hopple, right behind Wendy's. Go get your bags, and like we say all the time, man, you can get custom bags made, your name, whatever. You know, like we always say, make sure that your product matches the presentation. Otherwise, you giving the game a bad name. So let's give Bagman the round of applause. And last more, I want to shout out Marcella's Box. So that's my family. If you go check her out, she's got her thing doing her thing. If you need Letterman jackets from any of the Cincinnati public school systems, hit her up on marcellasbox.com. You need T-shirts, you need cups, you need pens, you need stencils for your business to go on your car. Whatever it is that you need, she's doing it, and she is booming because that is Marcella's Box. Let's get her a round of applause. We up out of here, Miss NikiiBabay. Shout out to IvoryTheAries. I'm gonna call.
Please.
Hey, Ivory.
You know, we missed Ivory today. She would have had fun doing the show, but anyway, Miss NikiiBabay, we look forward to next week, and like we do every Wednesday, like we say every Wednesday, don't be stuck on stupid and relaxed on dumb. See y'all next Wednesday.
Bye-bye. Peace out.
See y'all.
Let's go! The station that keeps it rocking 24/7.
Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen.
Grizz Biz, my 2 cents.